thank you for coming. I do want to remind you that we are recording this. We are going to re-release it on YouTube in an edited version and make it available to high schools, specifically in the Grays Harbor area. So I guess I'll start there. I'm Ralph Hogeboom with Grays Harbor College in Aberdeen, Washington. We've had an esports program since this fall, and I am really loving it. So, I mean, we just heard a little bit from Jason. I want to kick it over to Jill at this point. Jill, like, what is your, when you're thinking about esports in high school, are you thinking like budget? Are you thinking like, how do we get this? Or what does the equipment look like? Or are you all the way thinking like, okay, what is esports? Is chess an esport? Is Just Dance an esport? Like where you come? What's your number one big question?
Yes, that all of that. So I had no idea because I didn't even know this was a thing in high school. Like I didn't know it was a thing in college until you started doing it, Ralph. Come on, I'm a newbie, and that whole Sodomon energy is just kind of getting to me over there. So thanks for that, Jason. But yeah, no, I just need to know like how to bring. Where would the high school, is that under the athletic director? How do we bring this how do we make this happen for kids? Because I'm sure it's simple.
I think it's going to vary from school. I'm Sean Stern. I'm the CT director for the Ocean Beach School District and teacher and the esports coordinator. In our district, because of our size, we have an activities director that has athletics underneath his hat as well. So it does fall under that person's purview. That's because of our size.
My name is Chase Smith. I'm with Heritage High School down in Southwest Washington. I've helped over 25 high schools within Washington and Oregon get started with programs. And I could tell you that depending on how you actually start it, you're either going to be working directly with your athletic director if you're following WIAA standards and joining them. If you are continuing in a club or a program atmosphere, you're going to be working with your ASB office, most likely partnering with your CTE division for computers and a lot of the hardware that you'll need.
And I think this is a really great question. I don't remember if my introduction was on the recording. So I'm Jason Dilley. I'm the math and CTE and esports coach at Cedar Woolley High School. And I'm also the director of the Washington State Scholastic Esports Association. I'm actually doing a talk next month at a conference called NACAD, which is the North American Coaches Association. I don't remember what it stands for. And literally first slide is what department is esports in? You kind of just heard all three of them, CTE, ASB, athletics. There's pros and cons in each of those departments. I have the personal belief that CTE is the best place for esports for multiple reasons, but most of all, that esports is much more than just the gaming. There are so many educational aspects that we can put into esports, and CTE is the area that I think can best support that. It is also, I think, the best way to get large amounts of funding because as Chase mentioned, the technology aspects of what you're doing with esports, you will likely need computers that your school doesn't have right now. And those expenses can be costly, $20,000, $30,000, depending on what you're talking about. And one of the great ways that you can fund your program is by upgrading your CTE program at the same time. So if your computer science program wants to have the ability to do like Unity programming or work with Unreal Engine, which are like really legitimate job skills, you can't do those on the Chromebooks that maybe your school has. But Washington State has CTE grants that allow you to purchase the technology to upgrade your computer science program. And then on your grant, you put esports as like, you know, the second line or the third line, because all of those computers work for everything you need to do for esports. But again, the primary focus is always on student education and, you know, what opportunities are we opening for students?
Yeah, I don't want to piggyback on what Jason's saying. I'm the director of highschool.gg. GG stands for good game. You'll hear that GG name with a lot of the gaming culture and companies out there. But we are the career technical student organization that works with WASIA, Jason's teacher group. Career tech student organization, I'm sure you're familiar with that but that falls in CTE. So obviously we're a big proponent of the CTE side of esports. And Jill, this is stuff we can send you offline, but there's much more to it than simply playing the game. This was a deck that I'd put together for schools a little bit north of you all, but we're in the process right now of soliciting state grants from the legislature to go through OSPI. So there's a very easy way for all of the schools to go out and get some of those dollars to bring that program into the classroom. So that I think it's important to note that it's so much more than just an after school activity that's purely, think of it like a sport on a computer.
So we have the computer science course now. I think we just started it last year. So that I'm excited. Okay, I see this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I want to play devil's advocate, and I want to pick on Steven for a second because we haven't heard from him yet. Gosh, everybody, this sounds great for my high school to get grants to get better computer equipment, to get upgrades, but it sounds like a lot of work. What else is in it for me other than, my people are already overworked. We don't have enough time in the day to get stuff done that we currently have. Why should we take on an additional program?
That's my question. Okay. So,
yeah.
All right. So I'm Stephen Niemeyer. I'm a business, marketing, and tech teacher at Waterville High School. And we started our program. I met Jason at the summer conference a couple of years ago and kind of just got going with him on that. And I'm in a ultra small rural school, and pretty much you're just kind of, I think in this situation, used to, if you want something, you just have to dig in and go for it yourself and jump in feet first and just kind of pick it up and just realize that there is a big learning curve, but having a group that you can kind of come together and get ideas, whether it's this was kind of a new one for me. I just saw the link today and was like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll join in. But getting involved in things like Jason's group and other places, and just trying to get something together for kids, because it's very valuable. You get a lot of kids that maybe aren't as involved in athletics, and being able to make sure that they have a reason to maybe do better academically, because we require that they be academically eligible in order to play, is a motivator for some kids. And they have a ton of fun. They come in, they're just laughing, smiles, everything's just, it's something that they really look forward to. And so there's a huge buy-in from the kids to want to participate. But I'm still growing, because I would say I'm still probably the smallest one in the block for Jason too, where I'm just like, I got about 4 kids and that's it. So we're just a tiny little group. But as far as like just trying to think of the different ideas that have come out, is just like starting small with like just trying to do one game. For us is just focusing on that one game to get involved, and trying to do a little bit of coaching, but also taking care of the kids. But there was definitely trying to get administration on board and figuring that out, which actually wasn't too difficult. It was just having those conversations and then setting up a plan and getting it announced to the kids, and then setting a time. And it seems like sometimes it's a constantly moving target, in that it's just like little last minute changes here. And like just today, I had a kid who's like, I can't make it today, I have a dentist appointment. And you're like, so there's all these moving parts that are constantly going on. But I think it's just a big learning curve, and we're doing it all together as a team, and we're being supportive of each other, and that's been great. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I
if I
think
answered your question fully there, because it was like,
Yeah,
but-
and the thing that I would add on when we just talk about support is that there is a really good mix of coaches in Washington State. Some of us are gamers and have been gamers our entire lives, but there is also a lot of these coaches who don't know anything about gaming. They're just excited about the possibilities for students, and especially this last 2 weeks, our coaches Discord server has been a lot more active as new people have been coming in and asking good questions and sharing information and all of these things. So there's a community out there of gaming experts and non-gaming experts, and everybody is bringing forward something interesting to the table that ultimately helps with the student experience.
Yeah, and I think
go ahead.
oh, Chase, you got your finger up. Go ahead, and then I'll go for it.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm piggybacking off of what you've already heard. We offer 10 career opportunities for all of our athletes inside esports. So it's those are all things that they learn and they take care of for our esports program. So everything from our social media, our advertisements, our team managers, our coaches, everything is built within the program itself. And one of the things I recommend to piggyback off of having a plan is to have a goal. What do you actually want to accomplish with this? And I remember when Ralph asked the question he goes, well, why should we do this if we're already overstretched? It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the kids and the opportunities that they've been missing. And now we have that chance to give it to them. And you'll be amazed at how many of your previous students will come and coach for you. And what's great about that is you get the opportunity to teach them how to be cultivators of that culture, which is making them better in the long run for their communities, which is what we're all talking about for education.
Yeah, I have a student who he took second place in a national Dragon Ball Fighter Z tournament when he was a senior here, won a small scholarship. But then this last year, he actually got an esports scholarship. So he's attending Peninsula College right now. He's their Super Smash Brothers team captain, and he comes back in the afternoons and he coaches our students at the same time. And his growth through this whole process and coming back and wanting to give back to the high school community that he started in has been just phenomenal. But as one of those, things as a person who's not familiar with gaming, it's very intimidating to say, well, what can I do to actually help these students? Because I don't know anything about this game. Game knowledge isn't what you need to have, because you've got plenty of people who've got lots of game knowledge that can help you. Your experience just as an adult who is responsible and knows how to communicate and have conversations, those things, kids just, they don't get it. And having a person who can help with that is great.
And
Yeah, there's that.
Sorry, Todd, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's the soft skills benefit that the students pick up, because a lot of these kids aren't necessarily the ones that have been part of a team-based environment. They're not on the basketball or football team, primarily. So they get that aspect, but then there's those hard skills, especially now with the push in our state to get kids into career paths. They're picking a major in some cases middle school and working their way up through the system. When we provide esports is an excuse to expose them to all of the career fields that are out there, right? When we just had a championship from a high school down in California, and more kids watched the finals than watch the homecoming football game. And behind the scenes, or say on the stage, you have 6 versus 6, kids competing with one another. But then behind the scenes, you have about 40 kids that are producing the show. They're doing the broadcasting. They're running the lighting. They've designed the jerseys that the students are wearing. They're mixing together the audio that's used. They're doing post-match interviews. So they're learning sports writing. There's all sorts of different angles there that can be approached. I think the other thing from a teacher standpoint, This gives you an opportunity to get CTE certified, get clock hours, get the STEM clock hours that you need, but also bring in some CTE frameworks. And schools and school districts, remember, they're getting compensated based on the amount of opportunity that we provide in the CTE space. So when we can be creative, just like Jason has done. Jason, I believe you were full-time math at one point, and now you actually have an esports class, a CTE framework. We're sitting there as the student leadership component of that. So he's doing that in the classroom today.
Oh, that's just really cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask then, from a CTE perspective, because I'm the CTE director in Olympia, and I am curious, Jason, if you have a framework, I mean, which framework are you using, I guess I should be asking, that's associated with esports?
So I wrote my own framework. The class is called Introduction to Esports Careers. It is the curriculum itself is all stuff that I am writing. Can I share? Do I have permissions?
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't, but I can bless
Oh,
you with those
sorry.
permissions.
And Pat, while he's bringing that up,
Go for it.
We've also worked on kind of taking existing frameworks that you might find in a typical school and inserting all the esports concepts and ideas in there. And then Jason's gone the extra mile and has a whole brand new framework, and it's awesome.
So I built my class basically around this picture, right? Of various things that you can do within the esports industry. So I kind of have a unit for each, and that's what's written into my frameworks. My framework itself, let me just get into, I can show this off and I'll share it with everybody. And my frameworks need to be updated because what I did this year is obviously not exactly what I was planning for this year. So there's things that need to be updated here that I didn't necessarily do. But yeah, so Introduction to Esports Careers, this is the framework that I made. It's in the visual arts cluster, but it really uses, I go out, I kind of do a lot. My goal with the class was to have it be a kind of an introductory course where we hit on several different career clusters, and that is then used as a jumping off point. So if I have a student who is particularly interested in the streaming portion of it, I can say, well, then you should sign up for broadcasting because we're going to go into that in more detail. And if you really liked the social media stuff that we did, well, then you should go into marketing, right? If you really loved my theory crafting unit, which is a lot of like mathematics and statistics, well, then you should go make sure that you take the modeling with mathematics course, which I also teach, and the AP statistics course, right? Because those are things that that's another way to learn more about that specific field. So so that's really what my class is about. I don't have, it's not like a packaged curriculum that I can really give to people.
But when will we get that packaged curriculum, Jason?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea when if I can even make that happen. I'm not a curriculum writer, but.
And we're working on that. I'm hoping that we get some money from the state this year to specifically go out and build out that curriculum so that any teacher that raises their hand and happens to be interested in gaming can already take what the zip codes that work for them and make this work. So we're getting there. We're all based in Washington, and I've been frustrated that I've been able to deploy this all around the country, and we're still not in 100% of the schools in Washington. So I know we'll get there. And from a CTE or CTSO standpoint, which I'm a fan of, I was on the board of DECA and a longtime participant and judge in DECA throughout my life. I've said, okay, I love what DECA and Skills USA and TSA and FBLA are doing, but I've got this hot opportunity with esports to combine it all into one student leadership organization, put it into any classroom environment. In some schools, it might be the VLPA teacher, and in other schools, it could be the PE teacher, and other schools, it's the computer science teacher. But at the end of the day, it's just an attractive use case to get the kids in the door, right? And it's a perfect example. You can have the kids build an iPhone app that shows their Fortnite leaderboard that, you know, Jill was talking about earlier, or you can go so many different ways with it.
And Pat, also for Evergreen Public Schools, what we're doing is not only do we teach the career clusters, we have an introductory where we get them a lesson for each one of those careers, but then we separate them so they can focus in on what it is that they truly loved about the esports careers. And then we bring them back for a capstone, and that's where they run everything dealing with our program. And all I'm doing at this point is cultivating that for them.
So those are what, trimester, semester, year-long classes?
So for us, we do year-long courses on each one of those.
Mine's
Wow.
a year-long course.
So you're keeping esport kids for 2 and 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only are we keeping them for 2 to 3 years, but we actually practice at least 2 hours a day after school. I also coach football at Evergreen Public Schools. And so I take a lot of what I teach my football team and I put it right to my esports. So when they sign up to be a part of our esports programs, we tell them they are athletes, and we call them nothing less than athletes, and they're student athletes because we also put forth the importance of grades. So we make sure that all the skills that we're teaching them, although we'll help them with esports, it's mainly for what's going to help them in life. As Jill, we were talking to you about that a little bit earlier. Some of the skills that we focus on are visual timing and reactions. And yeah, it sounds like we're focused on esports, but those 2 skills alone help you with driving. It's a simple everyday tasks that if we can help find multiple ways to keep them going, we're just using esports as the tool to teach them the skills they really need.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you talk about self-improvement, things you wouldn't even think about. I mean, the obvious correlation, you know, we now have enough data to show that students that weren't meeting that GPA standard, now when we enforce this like a sport and say, hey, you need a minimum GPA in order to participate, that boosts it. But then also from the physical fitness and well-being side, this isn't what you might think of, I'm overweight and sitting in my mom's basement and playing the game and drinking Mountain Dew. The students realize that if they want to be able to click that mouse just a little bit faster and have those better reaction times, then they learn what that means for your blood pressure and your resting pulse rate and controlled breathing, and that they need to be doing that physical activity that the others wouldn't be doing. So you can integrate it into any aspect of the school.
Todd just mentioned some data that shows involvement in this specific extracurricular activity leading to higher, you were talking about higher grades, higher GPAs in general. Does anyone have a link to that research? Show me that data. I want to see it.
Sure. Well, I can show you the data from our school districts that we've worked with. I'm partnered now with Boise State University to get some PhDs to actually put some studies into it. But I have anonymized data of. Sorry,
so I've discussion.
No, that's right. I'm working with Brett his partner on that. But I know Doc well. But yeah, specifically what I was referring to, and I have to get off this call here in 30 minutes to go to this thing called Discord, which is our platform. We have a program right now in Compton schools, which is down in California. At the beginning of the fall, when the kids signed up in September, 38% of the students did not meet that minimum standard, that signed up. It was about 400 kids from the district, four fairly large schools. There's about 100 kids in each school that signed up for the program. 38% did not meet that GPA. By the end of October, the next time that those grades were collected, we only had 3 students that weren't able to participate academically. And it's not that these kids aren't bright. It's just that it's hard to be engaged, especially with COVID here. Where this is a remote activity that that draws them in. But I also want to be clear that we saw the same type of numbers with other districts pre-COVID, and we don't want to see this be an activity that happens at home. This is an activity that ideally happens in the school after school just like you would have a cheerleading practice or a band practice or a football or tennis practice. Yeah, we want to see this done with a teacher, a coach at school, after school, on school premises.
Intentional decisions, intentionally building a community around those ideals, rather than letting the teenagers build those communities at home with no guidance, where ultimately it leads to toxicity. And that toxicity, unfortunately, centers itself more around females and people of color than it does around the white males that are traditionally more involved in it.
And that was one of
Yeah, so those are teaching moments there.
Yeah, that was a concern that I had. So I kind of wondered if that's something that was going to be touched on today.
Yeah, so I think we can build that out in the curriculum as far as that digital literacy and digital citizenship. But the way I see it is, we know these kids, your school is not an outlier where none of the kids are playing these games on their own time. We know they're doing it on their own time. So rather than have them do it on their own where that culture can breed, let's take it into an environment where there is an adult involved, and we can teach them that, hey, anything you do online is going to come back to bite you 20 years from now. So yeah, let's do it the right way from the beginning.
I had a student just yesterday, because we had our first game, and all of the kids were laughing because this one particular student was like, oh yeah, he's just going to tilt and he's going to rage out, and that's just what he's going to do. And I'm like, yeah, no, like that's not okay. And he's like, is it okay if I hit the desk when I get frustrated? No, it's not okay for you to do that. And it's not okay for you to lash out at your teammates when something goes wrong. Like, and that's the thing, is on their own, that's perfectly acceptable, right? That's how it works. But like, that's not a good life. That's not a good way to approach life in any capacity.
We're not going to go down the Lord of the Flies path.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what happens when kids are playing games online by themselves. They what's the word I'm looking for? They fester off of each other, and it just gets worse.
Right.
But you put them in an environment where a responsible adult can teach them things and call them out when they have toxic behavior. It ultimately not only makes the gaming space better, but it makes them better.
So I'm going to jump in again.
Yeah.
Todd was pointing out that he had to jump into another call. We have 22 minutes left in this. I am going to shut the door right at 3. So I had asked a question earlier. Basically, I was picking on Steven about why you should go down the esports road. So you've made some arguments that are all largely student centric, and that's really great. The benefits to students for doing that. I guess I want to take the next step now, and I'm going to pick on Sean because I like him so much. Sean, I've heard the argument for why we should do esports. How much is it going to cost, and what do I get for what I spend? And I want that quantification in a way that I'm talking to people up the chain from me, not my peers and not people down there, not other parents. How do I convince my administration of the value I'm going to get for how much I'm asking for?
Yeah, the actual number, that's the tough call there.
I want you to be as specific as possible. If you're saying it's about, $1,400 a machine, or
Okay.
you need 2 rooms that can seat 20 people. Like tell me numbers as specific as you can.
Okay, so we did there in the summer, there was a series of esports webinars that was put on by a vendor. And so they had a special deal, and I believe the package deal was $1,200 per machine. We were already at the point that we needed to upgrade all the computers in our computer lab at that time. So that was a bigger ticket point than we would have gone for what we traditionally did out of that class. But frankly, with COVID, we had surplus where we had money we needed to spend, or we were going to have to give it back to the state. So that would have come out, we'll just round it up, about $30,000 for the hardware. And then from there, I'm getting paid a stipend to do this. I'm going to say my stipend's $1,200 for the course of a year. Coaches are going to be a different matter. Right now, I'm relying on volunteers, but I can see this going to our union and seeing individuals lobbying to have the esports coaches paid a considerable wage as the others there. That's going to be a harder sell because that comes out of general budget, and I don't think I can pay that out of CTE. If it's a CTE teacher, I can give them a CTE stipend. But if it's a kid off the street, that's going to be a hard sell. How's that work?
That's pretty good. Anybody else have numbers that are specific to their school? They can give a contrasting example for what happened for them.
I'll go last because my NACAD presentation is actually called An Educator's Guide to Responsible Spending in Esports. So I've been doing a lot of research about this very specific topic recently.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say. Oh, go ahead.
Todd, you're the man. Go for it.
Well, no, you're doing it. What I will say is, I want to make sure that everyone knows that this isn't something where the buck needs to rest on the student's back. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and there's the misconception, and it really just comes from a lack of understanding of what esports is or esports are, that you need to pay for a platform in order to essentially have the rights to play the game. And it's not the case. Both Jason and our orgs work interchangeably, but we offer 100% free platform to organize the competition and keep track of the leagues and the tournaments and scores and things like that. And it's not because we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. It's because these platforms are actually free online for the global esports community. So when your students are at home playing these games amongst other teams, which they already do on their own, it's just not associated with schools, those platforms are already free in the esports world. So we've just taken those same type of platforms and applied them to the competitive school environment. So I just don't want this to be an activity where if there's a participation fee assessed, that the money goes to a third-party platform that's just basically keeping track of the scores, which is what it is at the end of the day. So if you look at the other sports and how they're administered, that money goes back to the ASB that pays for the coaches, that pays for the buses, that pays for equipment and officials and other things that are needed to run the sport. So there's definitely a lot of misinformation that was out there, and there's a little bit of confusion. There's just lack of understanding in the WIA board. But the good news is they've started a pilot. Yes, it has a price attached to it, but after they show a certain amount of participation and interest in the next couple of years, then it's something where it could go statewide, and we really do get to the point where coach is paid on par. The way I look at it, I think it's about $2,900 a season that a coach can make in the state. So we'd love to see the same thing come to esports, but right now we're just not there.
Yeah, there's definitely a few ways that we can take this. First and foremost, if you're starting an esports program, your cost up front is going to be the most expensive part. It's getting the space, it's getting everything set up that is without a doubt going to be expensive. However, overall, when comparing to other sports, and again, I can speak because I also coach football, it is cheaper to run esports than it is any other sport in a school. And a lot of that has to do with things like busing. So when we actually include all that together, the cost for a student in esports is, if not free after the initial cost, it's within $20. Now, I'm working with WSUV right now. We're actually building an esports program with them. And the quotes that we have just recently come up with, let me get that information just real quick.
And I'll just interject that WSU itself has a full-time esports coach and program.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And so we were looking at some different spots inside that college. And yes, I know it's a college compared to high school, but this will give you an idea of roughly what a fee could cost. And there were three major price points when we were getting started. The lowest end and entry level spacing for esports costs around $44,000 after we laid it all out. And what does that include? We're talking about using 1 gigabyte per second internet pipes, 25 Alienwares, some R7 gaming machines, 2 70-inch HD TVs, gaming chairs, keyboards and mice. And so when we put it all together, 25 is quite a bit of a large entry level esports. And most schools are going to be maybe 10 if you're lucky, to get started out, depending on what games you're introducing. So once you get past that first introductory cost, the fee is very, very manageable. The only other thing that we've paid for at this point is our jerseys, because we are treating ourselves just like every other sports team. And for football, we have to buy our own jerseys. So for esports, we buy our own jerseys as well. So we fundraise for those things. If we want more games, we fundraise for those. Those aren't provided necessarily by the school. That's something that we want to progress in. So hopefully that kind of helps you with the idea for the costs of getting started.
So
Yeah,
what about
and piggybacking on
ahead.
what Chase is saying, yeah, just from a capital budget perspective, the unique thing about esports, and Jason highlighted this earlier, is that if you're creative, that computer lab that you've built out, or in some cases upgraded, is going to be used in the classroom all day, right? And that's you can't do that with the football field.
Correct.
So I'll just, I wish I had my slides. My slides for this one are actually saved on my home computer and are not currently on the cloud. So, but the kind of things that I'll be talking about on my presentation next month, when I outline, what do you need to buy for an esports program, your biggest ticket item, as Sean said, is computers. But you can actually start an esports program without computers. In fact, that's what Waterville, unfortunately Steven's left, but that's what Waterville has done. They run almost everything off of Nintendo Switches and Xboxes. The suggestion that I kind of put out to people is that an esports starter pack for a school, at the very base minimum, you buy 2 Nintendo Switches, you buy 2 copies of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and 2 copies of Mario Kart, a couple of controllers. You buy a family membership to Nintendo Online. You buy an Xbox, and then you buy a year's worth of Ultimate Game Pass for Xbox. Total, that's about $1,200. You can participate in the Wasia events with 2 Nintendo Switches. You can play Super Smash Brothers. You can play in our Mario Kart tournaments. Rocket League is available on Nintendo Switches. Kids don't like the controllers for it, but so they'll complain about that. But
grown-ups like me will also complain about the Switch controllers for Rocket League.
Yeah,
does not cut
everybody
it.
complains about Nintendo Switch controllers. If you're using Joy-Cons, ugh. But those kind of things, you can get a full year of esports if you have a tentative administration who doesn't want to spend the money right away. You can say, well, give me $1,500. I will buy this many things, right? And then that's really all you need to spend to participate with Wasia. And even then, a lot of times you don't even have to buy the Nintendo Switches, because kids, if you're just looking to get started, kids love the Nintendo Switch, and the design of that console is beautiful because it is so incredibly portable and easy. The hard part is working with your IT department to get internet unlocked, because IT internet rules are real difficult to get around in the high school.
It has, to be honest, is less to do with the IT internet rules than with the way Smash handles UP&P and making direct connections. I had to basically punch 2 holes in my firewall. We've got a Palo Alto here, and I tried for quite a while to figure out a way to make it work using traditional security concepts. And I just said, you know what, we're going to dump the switches directly on the open internet. When they're on, they're out there, and that's the only way we could get matchmaking to work.
Yeah, we've had to do similar things here. Steven can tell you all about what he had to go through in Waterville, because for him, it wasn't even just a district issue, it was an ESD issue.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult to manage. But yeah, so like starter pack you can do for $1,500. What Sean said about computers, 30,000 is probably a pretty accurate number, between 30,000 and 40,000 from what Sean and Chase said, because they are both, when you're buying those machines. But like Ralph said in the chat, you don't need 30 computers. You don't need 25 computers. You need 6. right? Base minimum, you need 6. And depending on how nice your district is, those machines can be refurbished. You can get a $700, $800 machine that will run every esports game. You buy 6 of them, and now you're looking at like $5,000 to get started, because, and you might have to, cannibalize some things a little bit. Your district probably has, monitors that are in surplus somewhere. You don't need a 144 hertz monitor. Your students who are gamers are going to complain that they have to go to a 60 or 75 hertz monitor, but you don't need them, right? Like, you can bring monitors in on surplus. You can buy a $700 refurbished machine, 6 of them. You can run everything off of that. And that's $5,000 instead of 30.
So what would that look like if I were a high school wanting to get started and I put forth that ask? I say $1,200 for a couple of Switches, Smash, Mario Kart. I want to participate with this WSEA league coming up in spring, and I'm going to do it using a club model. What does that look like for me as an educator, saying I want to start this as a club, not a formal, varsity program, not a formal like funded thing. I'm going to do it after school using a best effort model as a club. What's my first, second, and third step to do that?
So get your admin on board first, right? Talk to your administrators first. Tell them the plan. Make sure that they're okay with it. Second, I mean, the main thing is like, get all of your investors together, right? Administration, and then talk to students and say, listen, there's a Smash Ultimate Doubles tournament coming up, and this is what we want to do. Students, you have Smash players at your school, right? They will join that. And then finally, your IT department. You got to talk to your IT department, work through those rules. Every district does their internet security differently. And so working through internet security with your IT department is going to be, I think, the final step to make sure that all of that works. But then, then it's just running a club. You got to have a way to communicate with kids. If you're in a remote model or a hybrid model, you're going to have to figure out where you're going to meet. You can meet online in a Discord server, but you can also meet in a physical space, depending on how your COVID guidelines are all working out. That stuff is club stuff. If you've ever run any other kind of club before, math club, whatever, that's all the same.
Okay, we have 8 minutes left. I'm wondering if we have any other questions aside from the one that I just threw at you. Yeah, great. Todd, do it. Make those for me.
Oh, yeah, I'll make that. And I was on mute, so I didn't realize I was on mute. Just piggybacking on the computer conversation. I think what Chase and Sean were talking about, the high end, and keep in mind that's a college computer lab. Those are the Ferraris. At the lowest end, we actually have worked with a program through the OSPI. It's actually technically not through OSPI, it's just through the state of Washington, called Computers for Kids. And all the old computers that come from state departments are actually available for free to every school district. And what we're offering is a program where we will come in and teach a PC building and upgrading class. And it costs somewhere between $200 to $400 to upgrade those computers with the certain components that are needed to make them game ready. So you can build in a PC building curriculum component to kind of kick off your club and give those students some leadership. So there's lots of options. And then Jason's option, yeah, you won't find a school in the state that doesn't already have those consoles at home. And that Nintendo Switch, just so we're clear, that fits in the backpack. It fits in your pocket, and you can bring it into the classroom. And then the whole discussion around IT and firewalls, feel free to have them reach out to us, and we can give them the recommendations, as it's a little different for every single game about how you get connected. And also there's some communication platforms where the matches are organized. Like some people have been talking about Discord here. There's often things that are blocked there as well.
So we've got 6 minutes left. I
know Marcy raised her hand.
Oh, sorry, Marcy, please.
I know we only have a few minutes left. So a yes or no from folks that have been running esports programs at schools would be sufficient. Have you guys seen an increase in interest in post-high school credential attainment from students who are participating? Like are students who wouldn't maybe before weren't thinking of going to college, are they thinking about certificates and college degrees now?
So I know you said yes or no, so I'll make my answer as quick as I possibly can. Yes, I definitely have people. I've actually had 2 students that dropped out of school, got back into high school because they wanted to participate in esports, and then they went to college because they actually finally found an opportunity. So one of the things that we always push in our program is the opportunity where they may not have had it before. Yeah, there's an absolute increase.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, from me too. We've had several students from who have dropped out of our traditional high school and gone into our alternative high school, and have made special effort to make sure that they can still participate in our program, and then continue on to what they're doing at our local community college, Skagit, that maybe not otherwise they wouldn't have done.
And just real quick, a couple years ago here at Evergreen Public Schools, we held an exhibition when we got our esports program started. It was Heritage Timberwolves versus Centralia Community College in League of Legends and Smash. We held that at our game design expos. We had kids that had never been in a computer science course or even play esports join immediately afterwards just off that exhibition. And
Yeah,
they
those things
wanted
are
to know what they could do to go to school to do that.
So before we hit the top of the hour and I shut this shindig down, if you want a copy of the edited YouTube video of today's workshop, drop me your email in a DM and I will make sure to get that out to you sometime in the next couple of days. And that way you'll have this for reference in case, you missed the beginning or the ending or something like that, or you want to share it with your administration or some other folks. Certainly happy to put that together and send it your direct way. And then I also wanted to say, Jill, we are working with 2 AmeriCorps volunteers at Grace Harbor right now on a program they're calling High School League. And it really is reaching out to underprivileged high school students to walk them through the high school and beyond program in exchange for game nights. So you jump through these 3 hoops and we're going to play Jackbox Party Pack together on stream, stuff like that.
I love this.
Yeah, so
I think
Jill,
Copeland High School could be the first high school.
yeah, keep talking. Sorry.
I think we can. So I have the principal who is a gamer already.
Awesome.
He is our CTE director. We've got the computer science class. When we are right on the cusp, I just didn't know it was a thing for high. Like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I'm geeking out right now. Like,
So
we can do this, Ralph. Like, what do we have to do? You and I just need to get Brock in like a headlock. I was his leadership teacher, so I taught him everything he knows about leadership. And then we're just gonna be like,
I just like that you go immediately towards violence. Can I just celebrate that for a second? That's fantastic.
True gamer.
Jill, tonight, Marcy and I are hosting. We do every Thursday night. We do an all ages community gaming night. We're just doing some Minecraft tonight. You don't have to play. Do you want to join us and hang out while we play Minecraft with people and, invite your students to come and start building those connections?
yes.
You just need a webcam and a microphone. It's from 6 to 8 tonight. And I can connect with you after this too, but
Okay.
I'd love to have you there. That would be really, really cool.
What is
Jill,
happening?
just out of curiosity, what's your student population? Your student body size?
The size?
Yeah.
400-ish either direction. Hopefully more on the plus
okay.
side.
Yeah. So you're not very small. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of interest.
Yes. Yeah, we used to offer the computer science as an AP course. I gave the test to the students. It's kind of come and gone. The teacher just tries to stay one step ahead. It's not maybe her. She didn't seek it. It sought her, much of my coaching experience. I don't think I will be the esports coach. I don't think that's where I see myself necessarily, but I think I know how I can support it. And I think I know where I can find e-coach.
Jill, my
Totally.
recommendation, you don't have to be the esports coach, be the esports program manager. Teach them how to be coaches. You'll get much involvement that way because you just talked about how you have coaching experience. Teach your kids how to be coaches and you'll grow it even faster. Be the program manager.
And then we had kind of towards the end, Bree Schockel joined. I just wanted to know, who are you? We did introductions earlier, but what's your interest in all of this?
Yeah, so I'm Laura Breshock. I'm a school counseling intern at Kennedy Catholic High School. And
Oh, awesome.
I was at, right before the shutdown last year, I was at O'Day, where they have a pretty robust situation going on. And yeah, so when I was thinking about how to support kids here this year, and get some of my counseling hours and stuff done, I sniffed around about an esports club, and I guess there had been one laying on the shelf, but everyone who had supported it has like since gone. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and I'm just learning out how to support my kids the best that I can, because I'm, brand new to schools, brand new to all of this, had 40 kids show up. Like, I'm prepared to do like 12. That's what we talk about in counseling,
Standing
right?
room only on that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild. So I ended up having to sub today, last minute subbing. So I would have been here longer, but so thanks for letting me hop in. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You people have taken me over it's now 3:01. You've violated my personal end of meeting policy. So I'm gonna shut this sucker down. I did get some emails from you all. I have emailed several of you before. I'll get the video edited. I'll send it out to you, and hopefully get to work with Jason and some of these fine panel folks members to do another one of these real soon. So thank you so much for the participation. Super happy to meet some new faces and talk to some familiar faces as well. All right, everybody, we're all done. Have an excellent rest of the day and a great weekend.